Since we were just singing L'chaim, I think it's very appropriate to take note of the fact that I've only been around a few years, but this past week we actually see facts on the ground now, as they say, that actual work has begun on the construction, follow on the groundbreaking, and the wonderful Mazel Tov and L'chaim is very much in order, right? The beginning, it's going to take a while, but the first step is what you need to get going, right?
Thank you, Mr. Zwani. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Having been here a lot longer, I remember towards the beginning, was it the second banquet or the third banquet? I think Rebbe said we'll be in our Mikdash Ma'at in a year.
I just didn't say when the year was starting from.
That's right.
It'll be a year. It'll be a year. I whispered Bli Neder. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. I will say it is. It's true. It's. I will say it's. I would add on to Mrs. Warner. Then we'll get into our learning. It's always such an interesting thing just to see kind of how life works. Baruch Hashem as a Kehillah, we celebrate, thank God, like a beautiful and meaningful step forward. It's so interesting. Like Baruch Hashem now, they're clearing the site, and every single day you see something else comes down. A retaining wall is going in next week. Dirt is going to be incredible things. You move forward, and like out of the other side, we see just the terrible bloodshed that happened this week in Texas, and we see such a overwhelming catastrophe and tragedy, and it's an amazing thing. Like you look in Eretz Yisrael, it's Yom Yerushalayim. And how is Eretz Yisrael preparing for Yom Yerushalayim? In Sderot, they've moved out the mobile bomb shelters. They're redeploying Iron Dome now because Hamas is threatening that if you march through the Muslim quarter, that there's going to be this. In Chassidus, there's the concept of Ratza V'Shov, which translates loosely as forward and backwards. That life is this constant tension. We move forward, we're pulled backwards. We move forward, we pull backwards. And you see it just in the dynamic of life. You have a simcha, you have a tzara. You have a tzara, you have a simcha. So I say, you think to yourself, well, if that's life, if life is Ratza V'Shov, if it's a back and forth like that, then Lamaisa, how do you get ahead? How do you get ahead? So, you know what the secret to success is? I mean, I don't know what the secret to success is, but I think that one of the yesodos of success may be that hopefully to always move forward more than you're pulled back. So at least in life, it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So, and that's the nature of life, because sometimes we think that, I just want to move forward. It never happens like that. It doesn't happen for humanity, and it doesn't happen as individuals. But if we could just always make sure that at the end of the day, at least at the end of the day, I'm 1 step ahead. I'm just a little bit more ahead than where I was before. That's a successful life. So we should be zocha, Rabbi saying. We should be zocha. Kehillah should celebrate simchas. But the truth is, Klal Yisrael should celebrate simchas. And the truth is, mankind should celebrate simchas. Shabbosai, what I'd like to do for the next 2 weeks, and again, I don't think we could really give proper credit to Reb Tzvi every single week. I was just with Reb Tzvi at a simcha. We were just at the same simcha. I'm walking in, he's walking out. It's like, gotta make the schnitzel. Gotta make the donuts, right? Gotta make the schnitzel. Right? That's a little bit, if you're old enough, you remember gotta make the donuts, right? Gotta make the schnitzel, some mamish. Like, I'm going into a simcha, enjoying this. He's leaving to make the shosai. So it appears for us, and we can make the jokes, so all the different jokes, but Lamaisa, it's delicious and it's beautiful. Reb Tzvi, on behalf of the entire share, just thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are we settled on this menu of schnitzel and pugel? Because this is the third week. This is the third week of it. I'm just not good. It's pointed out.
It's different. It's different schnitzel.
You know, it's different schnitzel.
Very different. How he doesn't?
It is very.
There's nuance. There's always nuance.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's very different. But Zevi is, by the way, been giving me some tips behind the scenes.
I'm the advisor.
He's actually
I'm the Howie Whisperer.
Right. By the way, you could email suggestions at chassiduschaburah.org. Right, and it goes right to Tzvi's inbox, right? His inbox, and he'll
I actually don't.
He'll also
no,
take requests. He'll take
no,
requests.
No, I don't have. There's actually no email. You can write it on a piece of paper, and then in the corner over there is
There's a crack in the wall. It's like the Kaisel. It's like the Kaisel. You can just insert it.
Just put it right there. You see that great
The
thing?
big,
with the-
big gray bucket with a
Yeah, with
black
the
bag
bag.
in it.
And then I'll collect the ideas later.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. So we'll say Shekayach again. So Yeshkot to Tzvi, and really, Tzvi, thank you. I will say we're always looking for sponsors. So Baruch Hashem, if you want to sponsor, you can probably message me afterwards. I will say Shekayach. So what I want to do for the next 2 weeks is we're going to learn the Chalban, but what I wanted to do is, some of you may not know, the Chalban has a whole sefer on Shavuos. So we're going to spend the next 2 weeks focusing on the Chalban on Shavuos. I know we're going to have to do. I don't want to give up. We're not giving up on Akitz V'Ranenu. We're still going to continue to learn that as well. But I figure, you know what? Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag. You're supposed to prepare for Yom Tiv. 30 days beforehand. We're already within the 30 days. Is a week before Yom Tiv. So we'll spend this week and next week in Meretz Hashem focusing on Shavuos. So I want to share with you a beautiful idea, and I wanted to show you something amazing. You're actually going to see, amazingly enough, I chose this essay that we're going to, it's not an essay. I chose this piece that we're going to do by the Chalban, because I actually never learned it before, but amazingly enough, we're going to see that there's actually some crossover between what we're learning on Akitz V'Ranenu and this piece. So also listen to this. So you already see from the title, Ha'achdus Mafteach LaTorah. Achdus is the entranceway or the key to Kabbalah Satorah. You'll also see, by the way, that his writing over here is a little bit different. Akitzu V'Ranenu is probably the Chalban's most esoteric sefer. This is, you'll see a little bit, still esoteric, but a little bit less. Look what he writes. Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. Omdim anu lifnei Chag HaShavuos. We'll say here we are. And by the way, his wording, you have to understand, is taken from the Chalban's Shiurim. That's what the Sefer is based on. So this is the Shir that he's giving right before Shavuos. So literally, we're standing right before, a week before Shavuos. V'chol mi sheyesh bo neshama kedosha, v'regesh shel yiras shamayim, malihu b'chadras kodesh. So we'll say, any person who has a neshama, right, any person who has a holy neshama, which of course is all of us, right, feels a feeling of Yiras Shamayim. And I will say, how do you translate Yiras Shamayim? How do you translate that? Fear of heaven. So Azriel's been to enough shiurim, he knows. Rav Levi Yitzchak Berditchev says, Chas v'shalom, to translate Yira as fear. He says, why? He says, when you fear something, by definition, you distance yourself from it. So I fear fire. So that's why I'm careful. I don't get too close to fire. Says Yiras Hashem can't be fear of Hashem, because fear would push me away. I don't want to come. I want to come closer. Yiras Hashem means an awe or reverence. Now, when you revere something, you're not like putting your arm around it, right? So it's on a pedestal. It's at a little bit of a distance, but it's not at a distance because I fear it. It's at a distance because I look up to it. So says the Chalban, we're here right before Shavuos, and any person, any yid who has an neshama kedosha, which is every yid. And any yid who has a regesh, a feeling of Yerushalayim, which is every yid, malihu b'chadras kodesh. I will say there's a certain b'charadas kodesh. There's a certain, this lashon is interesting. How would you translate charadas kodesh? What does charada mean?
Holy trembling.
A holy trembling, right? Like almost like a trembling of kedusha. And I will say, there are some times in life where you feel that there's so much holiness there that it's almost like a shtickle paralyzing. Sometimes you ever get this where, I remember, I'll tell you just the Ma'aser Shai Kachaya. When I was living in Eretz Yisrael, so I was coming home after living in Eretz Yisrael, and I wanted to get to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Chassidus Chaburah was alive. And I wanted to get a bracha from him before I came back to America. So people said, if you want to get a bracha from Shlomo Zalman, go and daven at the Grush Shul in Shari Chesed. Shlomo Zalman lived right across the street from the Grush Shul. So okay, I and like 50,000 other people had this idea. So we go to Dav Mincha at the Grush Shul. Shlomo Zalman is walking down, and everybody's following. I'm there with my chavrusa, and we said, okay, there's no way we're going to get to speak to him, but at least again, to see an Adam Gadol, to see a great person is an incredible thing as well. So we're going down the stairs. She gave up on getting. I don't know how this happened. His gabbai, who was a South African individual, turned to me and my chavrusa said, do you want to speak to the Rav? Yeah. We said, yes. He said, get in. We got in the car, the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and I will say, so I think he just felt bad. We obviously looked at a place. He's like, okay, it's like Hiruv, you know? So he invited us in. And I will say it was one of these Israeli subcompacts. You know, they don't sell these cars anywhere else in the world because they're like illegal. So like the back seat is in the front seat. So Rav Shlomo Zalman is sitting in the front seat. I remember it's like yesterday. He turned around to us. And literally, he said, like, Ma Shlomchem or whatever. And I was like, right? I literally, my chavusa was like this, like talk. Could not talk. The end of the night is we drove with him to his house. Actually, we must have driven somewhere because he lived across the street. I don't know how it happened, but we drove with him somewhere. He invited us into his home. We went to Rabbi Shlomo Zalman's home. He invited us into his study. And I remember he gave me the most beautiful bracha for Hatzlacha, Shidduchim, and Talmud Torah, and all different brachas. That I was standing Rabbi Shlomo Zalman in his study. So whenever I see this phrase like Chadras Kodesh, again, it doesn't mean a fear. It just means that sometimes, like when you're in the presence of just such. I'll just tell you, by the way, I literally like attribute every bracha I have in my life to that bracha from Rabbi Shlomo Zalman. It was one of the most moving experiences of my entire life, to be with a Gadol Shabi Yisrael, but you felt like you were with your grandfather. You felt like you were with your grandfather, someone who loved you and cared about you, and you weren't taking up his time. He literally wanted to be with you. So we'll say that's Chadras Kodesh, Charadas Kodesh, not a fear, but when you're faced with Kedusha, it's like, I'm like stumbling. I don't know what to do. So says the Chalban, Shavuos is coming. And I will say this is also Liskos Kabal Torah. Because I will say, what is it that happens on Shavuos? You know, there's an interesting idea. There's an interesting machlokes haposkim. Do we stand during Aseres Hadibros? Right? The Gabbai always makes a clap right before Aseres Hadibros to stand up. Big machlokes haposkim. Whether or not you should stand there for Aseres Hadibros. In fact, interesting enough, most poskim say that if you don't stand for Kriyas HaTorah normally, you should not stand up for Aseres Hadibros. Why? Because it looks like you're showing importance and kavod to one part of the Torah. Aseres Hadibros is no more important than Parashas Bechul Kosai. It's no more important than Parashas Emor. No more important than Parashas Yisro. It's all the same thing. Aseres Hadibros. Right? It's all the same thing. So Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, says, no. Why do we stand up during Aseres Hadibros? It's not to give kavod to the Aseres Hadibros. It's to reenact Matan Torah. That when we received the Torah thousands of years ago, it was Ba'amido, we stood. On Shavuos, when we read Aseres Hadibros, it's not the pshat that we're remembering something that occurred. There is a brand new Kabbalas HaTorah, a brand new experience that is happening all over again. So we stand because we are re-receiving the Torah. That's the Charadas Kodesh. L'zakos l'kabel Torah. L'shefa chidushim u'psichas leiv l'chachmasu lofya. Rabbi say, what happens on Shavuos? Listen to his words. Shefa chidushim. Rabbi say, what does shefa chidushim mean? Like a downpour of novel ideas. Rabbi say, this is a part of us that often we don't think about as much, which is that part of Torah is to come up with your own novel ideas. We don't think about this so much. We think about like Torah is like learning Torah. You're supposed to come up with Chiddush. I'll tell you two amazing things. When I took a trip to Poland a couple of years ago, one of the most incredible things we did was we went to Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. Ramir Shapir, I was zocheh to give Daf Yomi in Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, which was an incredible schos. So they have like the Beis Medrash, and then part of the yeshiva was converted into a museum. Part of it is a hotel, a museum. So in the museum, it's incredible. They have a piece of paper from the yeshiva that detailed the schedule of Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. So Shachar, there was a pre-Shachar, whatever it was. You know, you woke up at 5:45. That was late. They woke up late, I think, 5:45. As well say, that's when they're waking up. So again, they had Shachar at 7. There was a Seder. Fine. What was the last part of the night? The last part of the night was write Chidushei Torah. The Lubliner Rav wanted his Talmidim to come up with novel ideas. He's like, Torah has to be yours. It has to be yours. And how do you make it yours with a chiddush. Now, both say that doesn't mean you should just go around and start, making expositions and drushes and I found the 614th mitzvah. I'm like the Christopher Columbus of Torah. Right? I just found no. That's not what it means. But what it means is you learn a piece of Torah. Both say you have a ha'ara, you have a thought, you bring something new to the table. That's the power of chiddush. I just saw actually last week that for the first yard site of the Kiddushei Meron, of the 45 Kiddushei Meron, Ramalkiel Kotler in Lakewood said to the yeshiva that every Talmud in the yeshiva should go ahead and try to come up with Chidushei Torah, Le'ilui Nishmas, the 45 Kiddushim. And BMG, they just put out a sefer, now just by Lag BaOmer, with Sefer Chidushei Torah, all Chidushim for the Talmid Yeshiva. Say incredible. There's a power when a Yid is mechadesh something. I'm Kona Torah. See, we often think you're Kona, you acquire Torah when you learn it. That's true, that's the first step. But how does it become yours? It becomes yours when you introduce part of yourself into it. How do you introduce part of yourself? Chiddush. So Shavuos and Shavuos, the Chalban says, Shefa Chidushim. Why do we stay up learning all night? Yeah, I will say, think about it just a moment. Like, if you think about it, I've often felt, I've often struggled with this. Like, to a certain degree, it's like the law of diminishing returns, right? So what happens? You stay up all night, it's fantastic. You chap in 5 hours. It's not really 5 hours, because you get there, you schmooze, then there's a barbecue, right? Then there's indigestion from the barbecue. Then there's the 4 bathroom trips in the barbecue, right? So by the time you finish, I've learned for 25 minutes, right? Out of a whole. That's right. So right. What's interesting to know, and then what happens? Then the next day, there's a 14-hour nap, right? So you think like, I don't know, like I think I kind of learn more on a regular Shabbos. But the point over here is that on Shavuos, there is this Shefa Chidushim. See, it comes down to Shavuos, there's like this shefa, there's this downpour of koach haTorah, and it happens on the night of Shavuos. And I want to absorb it. It's not about the hours that you learn. It's about going ahead and just being present when that shefa comes down. He goes on, V'hinei, be'emes, sarich kol adam, lada'as hetiv, shenekudas hashaychu shelo el haTorah, Nova'as me'etzem heyoso ben Yisrael. Everybody say, watch this. Says the Chalban, it is important for a Yid to know that I will say, what's my sheikhus to Torah? I will say, how do I have a connection to Torah? What's the nature of my connection? So the Chalban posits, the reason I have a connection is because I am a ben Yisrael. Now, what does it mean to be a ben Yisrael? That I am a part of Am Yisrael. You see, there is no such thing as a connection to Torah as a Yachid. There's no such thing. There's only a connection to Torah if you are a part of the Am. Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Morasha, Kihilas Yaakov. Who gets Torah? We'll say, who gets Torah? Kihilas Yaakov. Right? Not an individual. An individual doesn't get Torah. A Jew by himself doesn't get Torah. Kihilas Yaakov gets Torah. HaTorah hi Yerushalayim mitzad Yosina b'nei Yisrael. The way you acquire Torah is by being a member of Am Yisrael. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es Torah so. He will say, what an incredible Yisrael. I don't even know what to do with this yet. But how incredible is this? There's no Torah when you're an individual. There's no Torah when you're a Yachid. There's no Torah when you're cut off from the Kehillah. There's no Torah when you're cut off from the Kal. Morasha Kehilas Yaakov. If you want to tap into the greatness of Torah, you want to tap into the energies of Torah, you want your own Chidushei Torah, you have to be part of Kehilas Yaakov. You have to be part of the Am. Lefichach. Listen to this. Gaisha lama Torah chayiv misa ki unichnas l'rishus she'eno shalo. That's why the Gemara says that a guy shalom Torah. There's a lot of explanation with this, but again, we're not going to get into it tonight. If a guy learns Torah, he's chayiv misa. Why is a guy? Because it doesn't belong to him. It's like taking something that does not belong to you. Who does Torah belong to? Morasha Kehilas Yaakov. Morasha Kehilas Yaakov. So the Chalban goes on. Kishem she'etzem hashaychu shalom l'Torah nova'as mizaosina leumis. So in the same way that our connection to Torah stems I will say the lashon over is very beautiful. Mizahusenu haleumit. What does that mean? Mizahusenu haleumit, right? It means from our national identity, like tudat zeut in modern Hebrew is like your identification card, your citizenship. So mizahutenu haleumit means our national identity. Our shaykhus to Torah comes from our national identity. Kenhu benogeya lahasagas haTorah. He will say it's not just the pshat that my connection to Torah is because I'm a member of the klal, but it's also my understanding of Torah comes as a result that I'm a member of the klal. Upsichas halev lechachmasa olam kel. I will say it is only if you are a member of Kehilas Yaakov that ultimately you have what he calls a shaychus, a connection to Torah, and only if you're a member of the klal that you have the ability to access the wisdom of Torah. Lefichach. Listen to this. Therefore, the more that a person's life is intertwined with Am Yisrael, so we'll say, what does this mean? So we'll say, how connected am I to Am Yisrael? Think about it just a moment. Like, what's my connection to the klal? To the klal. Then we'll say, by the way, that can mean in many different levels. What's my connection to my kihila? What's my connection to my community? In other words, what's my relationship to Klal Yisrael? The deeper my connection, the more intertwined my connection is. Listen to this. Kechol shechash atzmo ever v'ta b'chlolos hashinabos. Say right from Akitzu Franu, same lashon. The more I look at myself as what? I'm not a whole. What am I? Say what am I? What am I? I'm a limb. Well, it's Akitzu Franu. At the beginning of Akitzu Franu, I had this. I'm a limb. V'ta, a cell, and the part of the Shechina. Klolos Yisrael. The Rebbe say this is such an incredible yesod. The more connected you are to Am Yisrael, the more connected you are to Torah. I will say, so I've gone through my whole life. It's amazing. I say, Chalban, where have you been my whole life, right? I've gone through my whole life thinking that my connection to Torah is fundamentally related to how much Torah I learn, how much time I put into limud. To which the Chalban says, that's true. That's part of it. You know what? The other part which determines your success, and success is defined in two ways. Shaykhus, connection, and Havana Chachma, understanding, is directly related to your connection to Am Yisrael. The more connected you are to Am Yisrael, the greater your connection to Torah. And I will say it makes sense, because Torah tziva lanu Moshe, morasha kihilas Yaakov. Torah belongs to the kihilas Yaakov, belongs to the klal. It doesn't belong to the individual. So if you're connected to the klal, you get the Torah. You live on your own, you don't have the same connection. Zeh sod ha'anava shehi mafteach l'Torah. And I will say here the Chalban says, this is the secret, this is interesting, of anava. I will say, what's anava? Humility. Humility. Now watch this. Humility, the Chalban posits, is the key to success in Torah. Kimo sheroem eitzel adon hanavi Moshe Rabbeinu, shemidas ha'anava hi asher zichsa osa lahagashas ha'Torah, ad shenikra mamish ashros. Let's talk about it just a moment. What does anava, what does humility have to do with this? See, Rabbi say, at the end of the day, think about this just a moment. When we speak about humility, what does true humility mean? For a Yid, what does true humility mean? What would you say? What does it mean to be humble?
Machnia yourself.
Machnia yourself to what?
Yeah.
What? To the other. So the Chalban will say, the highest form of humility is essentially sublimation of the self to the collective. That meaning, life is not about me. Life is not about me. In other words, what do I mean when I say life is about me? In other words, my life is about me. What it means is that a fully self-actualizing, fulfilling life is not lived as an individual. It's lived as part of the collective. That's anava. See what I say? Think about this. The Maral says sometimes the way to understand one thing is to understand its opposite. Right? What's the opposite of anava? What's the opposite of anava? Gaiva. What does gaiva mean? Egocentricity. Right? So we translate it as arrogance. But really what it is, it's self-centeredness. It's egocentricity. Everything is about me, and everything is for me. I need this, I want this, this should be like this. So I'll say the opposite is when life is not about me. When my life is spent in service of the other. But the other in this case is not simply an individual. The other in this case ultimately is the klal, is klal Yisrael. Anova is when I recognize that my true koach, as an individual, my true koach in Torah, comes when I am connected to the klal. And I will say, who was the greatest son of? Who was the greatest son of? Moshe Rabbeinu. And I will say, now we understand. Why was Moshe? We'll say, it's interesting because if you think about it, Torah says, "Va'ish Moshe anav mikol adam." But if I were to ask you, what behaviors in Moshe do you see that made him humble? What would you say? Well, what did he do that made him humble?
Well, he said
He deferred.
in Parshas Kisisa, he said, "Write me out too."
Write me out too. But the truth is, I would say, if you think about it, by the way, I don't even know if that's humility. If you think about it, it's like brazenness, right?
No, but he's saying,
Right.
I
I have to come. Good. So let me write on this. I think if you look, I'm sorry, by the sneh, right? You find this self-effacing. What the Chalban would say, do you know Moshe Rabbeinu's greatest anava? Moshe Rabbeinu's life was not about him. He gave up all the normal trappings of individual life. He essentially gave up his wife. He gave up his children. He gave up any sense of normalcy in order to serve the klal. That's what it means. And right, same as Rabbi Shai is saying, that when he says by the Egelim, erase me, there's no me without them. Or right, there's no me without them. In other words, if you wipe out them, then I'm gone also. I'm gone also.
You mentioned this in the previous, like a few weeks ago, that he was just a shepherd. He didn't. This wasn't.
He didn't want it. He didn't want it.
This.
Absolutely.
His life became for the people, not for himself.
Absolutely. And that's the anava. That's the anava Moshe Rabbeinu.
Another, to me, is having chiyuvs and living chiyuvs to other people, to other things, and structuring your life not on basis of your needs, but basis on the chiyuvs that you
For what others, absolutely. And I think that's very much in line with what he's saying over here. Anava means my life is not about me. My life is about me being part of the collective. Responsibilities towards the other, chiyuvim towards the other, absolutely. Well, so let's do one more line, then we'll stop for tonight. Hamaram, by the way, is this not life-altering? Is it only me? Is it only me that feels like I mean...
You're making a point that the realization of your make is Hashem is because you exemplify Ben Adam Chavero. It's that is where you get that.
So we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that right now. We're gonna see. You're saying very good because the next step is how this ties back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's creating a simple yet profound construct. Torah was given to the klal. It was never given to individuals, right? Therefore, the only way to access Torah is through connection to the klal. So you want to tap into Torah and all of its grandeur. The entry point to Torah. That's right. Right over here. Ha'achdus mafteach leTorah. Right. That's the title. Achdus is the key to entry to Torah. There is no success in Torah as an individual. Now, again, we're going to see he's bringing Moshe Rabbeinu because the another. Let's do one more line. We're going to come to the relationship with Hashem more next week. Hamaral mazvias bechinas hakesher ben Torah ben ha'am bichlaluso. Umavar. Listen to this. And with this, we're going to stop. Sha'asiba lekach sha'avos lo zachu lekabas atarabosai. Listen to this. Wow, it's like waiter service. So it's incredible. What did you do? Did you tap on the table? Tap on the table. Wow. Incredible.
On demand.
That's fantastic. All right, so listen to this. I'll ask an incredible kasha. What's I? Why didn't the Avos get the Torah? Right? Why didn't Hashem give Torah to Avram, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov? So listen to this. Himipnei sha'Torah nitna la'am v'lo liyichidim. Avram was great, but he was a yachid. Yitzchak was great. He was an individual. Yaakov was great, but it was just him. Torah is not given to individuals. Lefichach avosinu hakidoshim af she'ein l'mayla mima'alosam. There's no one greater than the Avos. How do we start Shemona Esrei every single day? Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. There's no one greater than the Avos. Mikol makom lo zachu lema shezachu habanim. As great as the Avos were, they don't hold a candle to what the klal can accomplish. Ubichinasam hi kimi she'eno mitzvah va'osa, lumasam menayim, shamdu ragleim ahar Sinai, v'nitztavu b'torah u'mitzvos. Yisod ha'inyan hu ha'am, klalos Yisrael. Rabbosai, is that not something absolutely amazing? Even though Avram Avinu, the Gemara says, the Gemara Maseches Yuma says, Avinu kept Kol Torah Kula, even Erev Tav Shilin. You could keep it, you could observe it. It's not yours. It's not yours, because Torah is not given to individuals. Torah is only given to the klal, only given to the nation. Zeh shoresh hashaychos leTorah ulekedushasa. V'soda inyan shekein am Yisrael achuz bebechinas arashchina. Sorry, Boss. You know what? We'll stop over here for tonight. I'll say just an incredible piece. Now we've created the framework. I'll say the Torah, and again, we know where this is going to go. You know, Boss. See, you understand what the Chalban is teaching us. That if you want to really tap into the full kiddush and full energy of Torah, it's all about Ya'achdos. It's all about Ya'achdos. How connected I am to the klal, and how in love I am with the klal, and how much I do for the klal will fundamentally determine my connection and my understanding, my appreciation and my inspiration from Torah. All right, to also stop over tonight. Shkayach.
Can you redefine Til Shalosh Ma'al Shema using this concept?
You mean, say what?
Meaning, someone who's not connected to the klal goes about learning. Meaning, does that now bring upon
bring him closer to the klal?
Right, meaning to bring him closer to the klal.
I think it has to work both ways, because what Rabbi is saying is that if someone learns as a yochid, does that learning bring him closer to the klal? So I would think it has to work that way, because if the Torah belongs to the klal, then by definition, when you learn it, you're brought closer. Yeah.
It depends, I think, what your intent is. Learning it to separate yourself, to only kind of build
bolster yourself. Unless maybe,
I want to be a great Torah
or maybe it just happens de facto. Yeah. In other words, maybe even if you're learning for all the wrong reasons, and that's the shalom, the shemar, even for not the right reasons, maybe something just happens to you. If something is so intrinsically linked with Klal Yisrael, it has to be that after I learn it, by definition, I'm brought closer.
Avo so says if you learn for only selfish reasons, that's not for Hashem.
Yeah, we don't paskin that way, right? We paskin learn, even for all the wrong reasons.
Practically speaking,
right.
People that you find that are learning a lot are very connected.
Right.
To the community. So
right, yeah, it happens. Right? Is that true?
That's what I find. I don't find that many.
I'd like to
think
that that's
for
true.
80 years they learned and they weren't.
And they
part
never
of
had any klal. Right.
It's the Gemara in Tainus. No, Torah has to go from a high place to a low place.
Right.
So if you have gaiva, then you're not in a low place.
Right. Absolutely. The Torah nimshal l'mayim.
You won't connect to the klal because you're not actually connecting.
Right.
You're just blocked from it.
Beautiful. Should we sing one more nigun, a song? If we have time. Oh, mamish, beautiful.
Oh, what?
I'm sorry.
Wait, are you serious? Oh my gosh. Are you really living? Let's go, Zebby. You don't know shit? Zebby, don't mess this up.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a big opportunity.
Shkoyach. Don't say Shkoyach. A good nerve Shabbos.
Seamless. Like a seamless.
Also, if there's anyone who hasn't encountered